From as early as 8000 BCE, mankind has been building towards the sky, and in the last millennia, our abilities to build skyward has gone far beyond anyone thought possible. So, what is the tallest man-made structure to have ever existed on Earth?
Here's a clue. It's not what you think. I'm Stu, this is Debunked, and we're here to sort the truths from the myths and the facts from the misconceptions. This video is brought to you by Magellan TV.
Let's face it, these constructions haven't always been built for practical purposes. Many have been built for personal gain and the kudos of having the tallest, grandest structure to exist on the planet. So let's start with one of the earliest recorded egotists, Pharaoh Khufu. He started construction on the Great Pyramid of Giza circa 2550 BC. And believed he would become a god in the afterlife, so had a pyramid tomb built for his body containing all the riches he would need in the next life. It would have taken a workforce of thousands to build a structure like this, but contrary to popular belief, the workers were actually made up of skilled tradesmen and labourers, and not hordes of slaves who were worked to death. Instead, archaeological evidence has shown that they were fed well and provided with comfortable accommodation, a privilege slaves would not have enjoyed. Once the 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing 2.3 to 13.6 tons, were in place, the entire structure was covered with limestone. This means that the warm golden hue that the pyramid has today was in fact pure white originally. After 2 decades, the Great Pyramid of Giza was complete and stood proudly at 481 feet or 147 meters. To get a true sense of scale for the first of our tallest structures, that's 25 of your average 2-story houses stacked on top of each other. This tallest man-made structure held the title for nearly 4,000 years, until 1311, another structure built in the name of God made its way 8% closer to the heavens. The Lincoln Cathedral in England took around 200 years to build and was topped off with a central spire that made the structure 160 meters or 524 feet tall. This prized spire stood for nearly 240 years, and despite a storm causing it to collapse in 1548, a height beyond this would not be achieved again until the late 1800s. Up until this point, religious spires were the exclusive competition for the tallest structure accolade. But in the District of Columbia, USA, construction to honor the country's first president began in 1848, and over the course of nearly 40 years, the Washington Monument took shape, albeit with a 20-year hiatus in the middle due to political differences that saw the grounds used as a cattle pen. But by 1884, the commemorative structure was erected to a height of 169 meters or 555 feet, higher than even the tallest church spires in the world today. However, Washington would be utterly dwarfed a mere 5 years later when the French achieved a truly astronomical feat. Designed to be light and airy yet strong, this wrought iron lattice structure was built to celebrate the centennial of the French Revolution. The Eiffel Tower took only 2 years to complete and stood nearly double the height of the Washington Monument at a staggering 300 meters or 984 feet. The metal framework alone weighed around 7,300 tons, and it was coated in 60 tons of paint, which actually needs recoating every 7 years. But while the tower is today an icon of the Parisian landscape, the structure was originally due to be dismantled and scrapped only 20 years after its completion. So, to prove its worth to the city, its designer Gustave Eiffel mounted a broadcasting antenna on top, which not only became invaluable to military transmissions and later TV and radio broadcasting, but eventually pushed the tower's overall height above 1,000 feet, hitting 324 meters. But that didn't happen until 1957. At its original height of 300 meters, the tower held the tallest title for more than 4 decades. During this time, across the Atlantic, the craze for skyscrapers had begun to populate the city skylines of America, and Walter P. Chrysler commissioned a building of his own namesake to be the tallest in New York. However, a rivalry emerged with the Bank of Manhattan, who too wanted the tallest building in New York. A construction competition commenced. After a dangerously rapid 2 years and a spire that was made in secret to overshadow the competition, the Chrysler building proved the tallest in not just New York, but the world. At 77 stories, this epitome of Art Deco design stood at nearly 319 meters or 1,046 feet. However, this beauty of a skyscraper soon stood in the shadow of what is now one of the most famous structures of all time. But before we set your sights on that, we'd like to introduce you to Magellan TV, who have made this video possible. Magellan TV is a premium documentary streaming service hosting thousands of hours of docuseries and feature films, with the largest collection of science content anywhere, which you can stream on practically any device. Plus, with new programs added every week, why not take advantage of our special holiday offer? Buy one, get one free annual membership by clicking on our link in the description. So, just 1 year after the Chrysler Building's completion, and named after the New York State's nickname, the Empire State Building was designed to be the world's first building to rise more than 100 stories high. The construction of this building proved an important source of employment for New York during the Great Depression, and saw up to 3,400 people a day working on the project. Although it was higher than the Chrysler Building, it was built quicker than anyone could have anticipated. It was finished under budget and ahead of schedule in just 410 days. Originally designed to be a mooring station for airships, its crowning spire took the total height to an enormous 381 meters, or 1,250 feet. With the addition of an antenna in 1950, the Empire State Building stretched another 222 feet, or 68 meters, into the sky. But, with or without this addition, the king would still have been dethroned by an unlikely challenger only a couple of decades later. Because oddly enough, over the following years, this tallest title wouldn't pass from one gigantic skyscraper to another. No. Instead, the iconic Empire State Building was topped by an unlikely and less elegant contender. You see, by the mid-1950s, a phenomenon called television had gained ground in the USA, and new structures needed building to enable networks to beam their shows all over the country. So, in Oklahoma in 1954, construction on the Griffin Television Tower shot skyward to an incredible 480 meters, or 1,500 feet. Known as the Como World's Tallest Video, or KWTV Tower, it provided the widest broadcast coverage across the southwest of the United States.
The higher the tower, the more views we got.
The comparatively light structure weighed only 476 tons. But due to its narrow dimensions, it required multiple levels of double guy wires to support it in severe winds. Over the following decades, as television consumption increased, so did the height of these masts, and the title was passed through a variety of radio and TV towers, culminating with the Warsaw radio mast in Poland in 1974. This thing stood more than twice as high as the Chrysler Building, at a whopping 646 meters, over 2,100 feet. Built to essentially broadcast the success of the communist rule, the mast was so powerful it could transmit as far as the United States and Australia. But despite the mast's collapse during high winds in 1991, another structure wouldn't reach these dizzying heights until 2010. Here we find ourselves in Dubai, a city that was originally built on fishing, pearl diving and maritime trade, and it existed mainly at a 2-story level. But independence from the British in the 1970s, combined with an oil boom, saw a new city centre form of man-made marinas, beaches and lakes, surrounded by skyscrapers. But construction on the jewel in Dubai's crown didn't begin until 2004, and would see a structure reach higher than anyone had thought possible. Designed to be not just a super tall skyscraper, but a vertical city, and its neo-futurist style wasn't just for aesthetics. The stepped columns that rise up around the central spired structure are actually designed to deflect wind from the building. But the interesting force that we're dealing with here is not that this enormously tall building could be blown over, but instead be sucked over. As wind hits one side of the tower, it sheds and forms whirlpools of air on the opposite side. The wind stresses that these vortices create can cause a building to rock side to side and damage the structure. The changes in shapes of the Burj Khalifa at differing heights essentially confuses the wind, so there's not one concentrated force.
It's almost like you have several different buildings with height, and each one of them has different vortices shedding at different wind speeds. All of those things can't happen at the same time, so what you're left with is very little vortex shedding.
Standing more than double the height of the Empire State Building, the Burj Khalifa was completed in 2010 and stretched to a previously unimaginable 2,716 feet or 828 meters high. While competition may take the limelight in years to come, with the likes of Saudi Arabia's Jeddah Tower being constructed to 1 kilometer up from the Earth's surface, the subsequent years have seen the Burj Khalifa stand proudly as the world's tallest building. But wait! Building! We're looking for the world's tallest structure. What if there's a category of structure that we've completely missed? Well, let's rewind just a few years back to 2007. Before the Burj Khalifa had been completed, here in the Holy Bible of Records, the great adjudicators of Guinness World Records declared something rather unexpected as the world's tallest freestanding structure. 210 kilometers southeast of New Orleans, a tangled metal tower stood taller than any structure before it, except this thing stood underwater. With its entire structure weighing more than 50,000 tons, the Petronius-compliant tower rose 2,000 feet, that's 610 meters, up from the sea floor. Towers like this are designed to be more flexible than traditional land structures and can cope with a 2% sway of its height. By comparison, most buildings on land are designed to withstand a maximum of 0.5%. 2 years later, another type of oil platform, the Ursa tension leg platform, seized the title with a total height of 4,285 feet. That's over 1,300 meters, and taller than the Burj Khalifa with the Empire State Building balanced on top. The structure includes 16 tendons of 3,800 feet or 1,200 meters in length, and each tendon has a 32-inch diameter and weighs 1,000 tons. The foundations of these tendons go a further 134 meters or 440 feet into the ground. And although we're not counting foundations, for comparison, the Burj Khalifa only goes 50 meters or 164 feet into the ground. This monolith of a structure is designed to remain steady in the ocean and can simultaneously withstand hurricane-force waves and winds. A further 2 years later, and another structure of the same design superseded it, with the Magnolia ETLP being declared the world's tallest structure, extending more than 1,400 meters or 4,700 feet up from the sea floor.
Now it's been debated whether underwater structures are eligible for this accolade.
The big difference between a structure like this and that of one on land is that a building or tower is held up by means of a rigid steel and concrete framework. Instead of being held up, a tension leg platform is being held down using steel tendons. But to clear the matter up, Guinness World Records have stated,
If height is defined as the distance that a structure extends upwards from the Earth's surface, then the Magnolia Extended Tension Leg Platform in the Gulf of Mexico is the world's tallest man-made structure.
Since then, Bigfoot is the latest platform to extend even further, to over 5,000 feet or nearly 1,600 meters. If you stacked up two Burj Khalifas, only the tip of the second spire would be poking above sea level.
But what of the future? There's a limit to how deep you can go in the oceans, but there's no real limit to the skies.
Enter the Clouds Architecture Office. In 2017, these guys proposed a structure that is nearly out of this world. They have designed the world's tallest structure to be hung from an orbiting asteroid 50,000 kilometers above ground. Yep, you heard that right. The actual height of the Analemma Tower is yet to be specified, but it would be made up of offices and residential units and would essentially be an elevated floating city.
I would love to see it built. However, I don't think I'll be alive when it happens.
If you enjoyed this topic and would like to learn more about the incredible structures that have been developed and built on our planet, then check out Magellan TV's eye-popping series Living Big and learn about how ancient civilizations built staggering structures that still have architects scratching their heads, and continue your educational journey with megastructures, learning about today's skyscrapers that are completely self-sufficient. Just click on the link in the description to access our buy one get one free holiday offer. Thanks for watching, and thank you so much to our Patreon supporters. Your names are on screen now. I'll see you next time.